So it's the week before the turkey, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into some turkey, we of course have to deal with week 11 of this 2023 NFL season. So before we get into the game slate that is to come this coming weekend, we have some teams that are on their vacation to talk about. And those teams include the Atlanta Falcons, the Indianapolis Colts, the New England Patriots, and New Orleans Saints. So they get a little bit of time to enjoy, relax, and maybe even get some pre-Thanksgiving or maybe even during Thanksgiving dinner, whether it be nice or maybe burned to a crisp. But either way, they'll be back in action in week 12 after they've had their nice or not so nice Thanksgiving dinner. But now, let's talk about the games that are to come this weekend in week 11. We already got things started with Thursday Night Football only on Amazon Prime Video, as we were supposed to get a nice matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. These two teams already met back all the way in week 2, where the Ravens beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. Unfortunately, key injuries marred this matchup before halftime, as both on the Ravens side, Mark Andrews left this game with a knee injury, and Joe Burrow of the Bengals left with a wrist sprain, as it ended up being. But nonetheless, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, and Gus Edwards lit up the Bengals defense for 2 touchdowns each during this game, as Baltimore scored a division sweep over the Bengals 34-20. But don't let that box score fool you, because this game was pretty much over by halftime once Cincinnati lost Joe Burrow to that wrist sprain. Going to the Sunday slate of games, starting with the early morning portion as we get into our actual preview for week number 11. The Dallas Cowboys at 6-3 take on the 1-8 Carolina Panthers. So, in terms of last week for both of these teams, the Cowboys, well, they put the ass whooping on the New York Giants, 49-17. They swept the season series. Meanwhile, for the Panthers, they lost to the Bears 16-13 on last week's Thursday night game that nobody wanted to see. So, I mean, at this point, there's not really much else to say about the Carolina Panthers offense. It's really bad. They're not really doing much to help Bryce Young. Bryce Young, he's still going through a lot of pains during his rookie year, but his supporting cast ain't really helping him much either. Meanwhile, for the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, at this rate, it's just pretty much easy pickings until the rematch with Philadelphia in week 14 on that Sunday night. So I'm going with Dallas in this game, obviously. But another important AFC North matchup that is to take place this coming week is the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Cleveland Browns, both teams at 6-3. This game would have a little bit more importance if not for a certain quarterback getting injured, now out for the season. Of course, I'm talking about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson is now out for the season with that shoulder injury that kept nagging him throughout much of the season, and now it got worse during that Baltimore game where the Browns did upset the Ravens in that game. But unfortunately, during that game, Deshaun Watson aggravated that shoulder injury, and now he has to have season-ending surgery, which is unfortunate and now makes that trade look a lot worse for the skid marks. Yes, they're once again the skid marks, ladies and gentlemen. So now they have to try it out Dorian Thompson-Robinson or instead of PJ Walker in this game at home against Pittsburgh, where the Steelers won the first matchup back in week 2 against the Browns in Pittsburgh. But now they're kind of limping into this matchup against Pittsburgh, who have questions of their own with their passing attack, which is once again be tested against this top-ranked Browns defense, who are pretty much going to have to carry the load once again the rest of the way. So unfortunately for the Browns, I'm going to go with the Steelers. The Chicago Bears at 3-7 take on the 7-2 Detroit Lions. In terms of last week, the Bears beat the Panthers in that Thursday night game. The Lions beat the Chargers in that shootout that week 10 matchup. So for the Bears, I mean, a little bit of positive news for them, I guess, or make that for what you will. Justin Fields is coming back, at least bearing a setback in practices this week. He's expected to come back to the starting lineup from his thumb injury that kept him out for a couple of games. Meanwhile, for Jared Goff and the Lions, they won a big game in LA against the Chargers. Now, they have a nice 4-game stretch. The Bears, the Packers, I think they also play the Saints, and now they play the Bears again. This is a time for them to really rack up some wins, and who knows, maybe they'll be clinching the NFC North sooner rather than later. So I'm going to go with the Lions, but hey, don't sleepwalk on these opponents, Detroit. Like you have to accomplish that goal, pal. But anyway, I digress. The LA Chargers at 4-5 take on the 3-6 Green Bay Packers, two struggling teams. Like, my lord. As I said, the Chargers already lost to the Lions, and the Packers lost to the Steelers in that game that they could have won. But unfortunately, Jordan Love is anti-clutch. He threw two bad interceptions, including the game-sealing one in Pittsburgh. And then meanwhile for the Chargers, I mean, that defense that's heralded by Brandon Staley, it's god-awful. So I'm still going with the Chargers because, yeah, Jordan Love, even in the clutch, like, even regardless, I can't trust them. Arizona at 2-8 take on the Houston Texans at 5-4. Last week, the Cardinals, in Kyler Murray's return, they beat the Falcons in a comeback win. The Texans beat the Bengals in an upset win, probably the shocker of the week, in Week 10. So, good win for them. Probably their biggest win of the season so far. So, for Arizona, I mean, at this rate, I mean, it's pretty much evaluation mode for them for the rest of the way. There's, at least for, on a positive note for them, Kyler Murray, he looked pretty solid in his first game back as he continues to shake off the rust. But obviously, kind of a big test for them in terms of a Houston team that looks like it's going to be destined trying to make a playoff push the rest of the way. But they cannot walk into a trap game in an Arizona team that, sure, the record is 2-8, but this team, still trying to play hard, I guess. But I'm going with the Texans. The Tennessee Titans at 3-6 take on the 6-3 all elite Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jaguars certainly didn't feel all elite. They certainly felt the desperation of Tony Khan, C-O-N, and it backfired on them as they lost to my San Francisco 49ers 34-3 in that big blowout last week in Week 10. Meanwhile, for the Titans, on the other side of Florida, they lost to the Bucs 20-6. So for Will Levis, he had a very bad game. He looked like a rookie in Tampa, but look, he's looking to bounce back. But it's a little hard when Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars are going to also be looking for that bounce back from that road bump that was the 49ers defense. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars here. I think Will Levis, he'll try to put up a fight, but I think there's not going to be enough separation between the Titans team and the Jaguars. The Las Vegas Raiders at 5-5 take a trip down to South Beach to take on the 6-3 Miami Dolphins. The Raiders beat the Jets in that pretty bad Sunday night game. It was like an offensive offense display, if you get my drift. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, they were on a bye week in week number 10, but the last time we saw them back in week 9, they lost to the Chiefs in a pretty bad ending for them and back in Germany. But nonetheless, they're looking to really shake off their pretender status because, seriously, they have to start beating some legitimate competition because they could beat all these scrubs, but when it comes to facing teams like the Chiefs, the Bills, even though the Bills are not really contenders anymore, in my opinion, but nonetheless, you cannot be an AFC contender if you cannot beat the best of the best in the conference. So this is kind of a point in time now that you really got to start building yourself up heading into your next legit opponent, which doesn't come until a little while now. But you got to play who you play, at least for the time being. So I'm going with the Dolphins here, but Antonio Pierce will try to pull something up his ass, I guess. The New York Giants at 2-8 take on the Washington Commanders at 4-5. An NFC East rematch from Week 7 where the Giants beat the Commanders 14-7 at home. So for the Giants, it was expected that they got their butts whooped by the Cowboys in Arlington. The Commanders, they almost beat the Seahawks in Seattle, but unfortunately, Sam Howell, he did all he could. He proved it once again in that game that, he's quietly having a legit shot to remain the starter beyond 2023. But unfortunately, he doesn't have a defense to back him up. His defense really let him down in the final moments of that game. So really unfortunate there. But I think Sam Howell is having a pretty, not a very solid season. I'd say a pretty good season, in my opinion. But it's just unfortunate that his defense can't do shit to rack up some wins here. But in terms of the Giants, I mean, well, it's the Giants. It's like they lost Daniel Jones already. It's like, what more can you do? So I'm going with Washington. Now going to the afternoon slate of games. Probably the only big one right now is the Tampa Bay Bucks at 4-5 taking on my San Francisco 49ers at 6-3. As always, I'll be talking about that in a separate video, more in depth. The Bucks, they beat the Titans at home. The Niners beat the Jaguars on the road to snap their losing skid. The Bucks also snapped their losing skid, by the way. So for the Bucks, they have an opportunity to retake control of that crappy yet wide open NFC South after everyone else lost that week. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, they seem like they're back on track. The bye week certainly helped them, but now they begin an important month-long stretch. The Bucks, Seattle, Philadelphia, Seattle again. Like, you cannot overlook anyone on this schedule anymore. It's because considering that 3-game stretch where you did lose and overlooked people, yeah, every game counts now. And I'm going with the Niners for that part. The New York Jets at 4-5 take on the 5-5 Buffalo Bills. The Jets, they lost it in that Sunday night game to the Raiders. The Bills lost a bad one to the Broncos on Monday night the next day. So this is a rematch from week 1 in the season opening Monday night game where the Jets lost Aaron Rodgers to a torn Achilles. Where the Jets, they pulled off that miracle up their ass on the punt return touchdown against the Bills back in week 1. But still, things are different now. And for the Jets, they don't have any intentions to bench Zach Wilson despite the putrid offensive play. And, I mean, I can't really blame them at this point because they don't really have anyone else. I mean, I would say, yeah, you have Zach Wilson is bad, but it's like they don't really have anyone else. I'm just saying. Meanwhile, for the Bills, though, oh, man. Oh, good Lord. It's like they are a broken mess. And reason to believe is like, yeah, they fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey. So it's like, where is that going to do anything in the rest of the way, especially heading into a tough stretch in December, and which kind of begins here too with that Jets defense. It's looking rough for the Bills. I mean, they are going to win this game, but I won't be surprised if they don't somehow. The Seattle Seahawks at 6-3 take on the 3-6 LA Rams. I'm certain that some Niners fans will also be paying attention to this game because, fortunately for us, this game is also being broadcast in our area. So that's good. That's good. We're going to definitely be scoreboard watching and maybe flipping through channels too, if some of you do that too. This is a rematch from week 1 where the Rams beat the Seahawks 30-13 in Seattle. So they got a big win there, but obviously things have changed since then. 10 weeks later, the Rams, back when they were last back in action, they lost to the Packers, but they didn't have Matthew Stafford in that week 9 game. So they've had 2 weeks to get him back, and it seems like they're going to get him back. But if not, from that thumb injury, they did sign some insurance in the form of Carson Wentz, who ironically, back in that draft, the Rams considered taking Carson Wentz at number 1 overall, but they instead went to Jared Goff. Interesting how things have changed in that 7-year span. Meanwhile, for Geno Smith and the Seahawks, this is an important 2-game stretch, actually 3-game stretch for them because they play the Rams in this rematch. They got to win it to split the season series, and then they go home to face the 49ers, and then they got to go to play Dallas in the next Thursday. Oh, man, this is a big, important game for them. So I'm going to pick the Seahawks in this game to win it. But, yeah, the Rams will try to put up some fight. The Sunday Night Football game for week number 11. This is an interesting one. The Minnesota Vikings at 6-4, taking on the Denver Broncos at 4-5. Both teams are salvaging their season somehow. Josh Dobbs, coming over from the Arizona Cardinals via trade, and he has this offense red hot. And if they get Justin Jefferson back at receiver from injured reserve, if he's ready to go, who knows? Who knows what this Vikings offense could look like? And if Josh Dobbs continues his red hot play. Meanwhile, for Russell Wilson, the Broncos, sure, they're still trying to find ways to win and their offense is so-so. But they won 2 straight, and 2 of those wins are against potential playoff teams in the Chiefs and the Bills. I mean, we know the Chiefs are 1, but the Bills, we thought they were 1, but no, we didn't anymore. So Russell Wilson, the Broncos, they seem like they're going to be back on track, but we'll see. So I'm going to go with the Vikings to play it safe. And then we got the closing game for Monday night. The Week 11 Monday night game that I've been waiting for. I mean, it's going to be a good matchup, but I'm waiting for this for very selfish reasons. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to organize the funeral. We are going to organize the burial. We're going to organize the grave. We're going to organize the tombstone of Monday Night Raw for the week of 11/20/2023, because this game that's going to be played on Monday night involves a Super Bowl rematch and maybe potential Super Bowl preview in Vegas in February between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, ladies and gentlemen, forget your Judgment Lame, forget your Rhea Ripleys, forget your Becky Lynches, forget all those jobbers on Monday night. This is the game. This is the show that you have to be watching, whether you're a hardcore wrestling fan or casual wrestling fan, a non-sports fan, what have you. Take the 3 hours of your life, because if you hate Raw, if you've been so tired of watching the Judgment Lame, Becky, anyone, use those 3 hours worthwhile to watch two dudes slinging it, having a shootout on a Monday night in Kansas City. This is the game for you. I sold you. Have I sold you on this game? I think I have. But anyway, in all seriousness, I expect Raw to get under 1 million. I'm guaranteeing it. I don't care if I'm wrong. But yeah. So both of these teams were on their bye week in week 9. The Eagles beat the Cowboys. They managed to hold on in that goal line goal line stand that almost cost them the game. They almost self-destructed, but they managed to hold on. Meanwhile, the Chiefs beat the Dolphins back in Germany in week 9. So both teams were on vacation. Now they're heading into the biggest game of the regular season by far. And who knows? Who's going to come out on top? And of course, the last time both these teams met, they were in the Super Bowl back in February. And as I said before, this could be a potential Super Bowl preview in next February. So for the Eagles, they're still getting a lot of these wins despite a struggling passing defense and a couple of these piling injuries. One of those piling injuries included to a defensive lineman, Nakobe Dean. So he's been put on IR, and then you also have to account for the knee injury to Jalen Hurts, who has been shrugging it off, but they keep talking about it so much that who knows? Maybe the bye week certainly helped him, but if it didn't help him, then it could be a cause for concern, but we will see. Meanwhile, for the Chiefs defense, they've been finally becoming a strength for this Chiefs offense, trying to complement that Chiefs offense, who have been kind of struggling as of late, especially because, well, they don't have any receiving help outside of Travis Kelce. So maybe that'll come alive here in this game against Philadelphia, but I'm going with the Chiefs. But yeah, get those burial rites ready. Get those eulogies ready for Monday Night Raw this coming Monday, 8/7 Central, because Monday Night Football is coming to town, coming around, as the stale and repetitive mind likes to say in Becky Lynch, who, by the way, did terrible on Jeopardy. And the Eagles and the Chiefs, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, are going to bury the crap out of triple big nose Triple H's Monday Night Raw this coming Monday. Guarantee it, ladies and gentlemen. Guarantee it. So anyway, I don't mean to crap on Raw. I know I keep rambling on, but I don't mean to crap on Raw, but this needs to be their wake-up call. This is the go-home show before Survivor Series, ladies and gentlemen, and yet we have a crappy card. The basically main event for Survivor Series next Saturday is a War Games Advantage match, which they're basically showing, and then 2 women's matches, and then a jobber match. Okay, you're going to compete with that, but you're going to use that to compete with the biggest Monday Night Football match of the regular season. Good luck with that, WWE. Good luck with that. But anyway, enough rambling, enough trying to sell you on this big Monday night matchup that will live up to its name. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on week number 11 in the comments below. And yeah, let me know how your team will do. Give me your picks, give me your previews for all these games in the comments below. And until next time, get the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And peace out.